Hong Kong police are expected to make more arrests following weeks of protests in the city. So far, 13 people have been arrested in connection with violent clashes on July 1st. One of the arrested is suspected of storming into the Legislative Council building on Monday night.
Now, officers have been combing through evidence at the legislature. Widespread damage in the building has forced its closure while it undergoes repairs. As a result, LegCo is only expected to reconvene in October, while some lawmakers have suggested resuming meetings at an alternative venue. Council President Andrew Leung said this wouldn't be practical.
First of all, the security is an issue, and also another venue is not easy to find. If you notice that every meeting we have over 1,000 people in the complex, including reporters, we have to find the right venue, which is very difficult at this moment.
Weeks of unrest in Hong Kong has prompted a war of words between the UK and China. British Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt has vowed to maintain pressure on China over the treatment of protesters in the city.
Meanwhile, Chinese state media blamed foreign interference for the city's unrest. For the latest on this, let's cross over to Lynette Lim in Shanghai. Lynette, what's China's latest reaction to Mr. Hunt's comments?
Well, at the same time that Mr. Hunt was saying that he would keep the pressure on, he also denied that he was supporting the violent protests and that he condemns all violence. Now, this particular comment has been taken out by Chinese state media here as a backtracking of what he originally had said. Now, recall that he originally said that there will be consequences if Beijing did not abide by the joint Sino-British Joint Declaration in 1984. So there's no official reaction as yet to his latest comments, although the state media Global Times, did rather gleefully play up the part that, he backtracked by, condemning the violence. We also know that this was just followed by a press conference that was called by by China's ambassador to the UK, Liu Xiaoming. He did accuse the UK government of interfering in Hong Kong's affairs, and he also said that they were accused the UK government of backing up violent lawbreakers. Now, he was then summoned by the head of the diplomatic service in the UK, who then lodged a complaint over Beijing's inaccurate and unacceptable comments. So this really, the back and forth that's been playing out really follows Mr. Jeremy Hunt's comments on Tuesday, and there'll surely be yet more to come.
Lynette saying that, can we expect tensions to escalate further then?
I think it's a bit early to tell, but we can also base it on how the developments in Hong Kong are progressing. Steve earlier talked about how the police have made the initial arrest, and this could be a trigger event. And let's not forget that this October, a few months from now, we are seeing the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. It's a really important historical turning point because according to the Chinese Communist Party, this was the turning point where China ended its century of humiliation at the hands of Western powers. So what's happening in Hong Kong right now, it's very inconvenient in that it's actually a challenge to Beijing's success story, its narrative that the one country, two systems model is working. When we see the protests, when we see images of the LegCo in ruins, it's really a challenge to the fact that, Beijing's political system is working. And this is unacceptable, and this is humiliating for the Chinese leadership, who will no doubt be taking strong action against not just the UK government, who wants to, promote any sort of stout defense of Hong Kong. So we can expect tougher words to come, and we can definitely be sure that if tensions were to escalate, this is one fight that China is unwilling to lose.
All right, thanks for that. Lynette Lim speaking to us from Shanghai. Well, as you heard, the British Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt has warned that there will be consequences in China if China doesn't honour their joint agreement on Hong Kong's governance. Ollie Barrett tells us more from London.
Well, it's interesting that Jeremy Hunt, the UK Foreign Secretary, is not ruling out the prospect of sanctions being used against China over what has been taking place in Hong Kong. Now, the British would say that simply what they are doing is honouring that joint declaration of 1984 between the UK and China, which guarantees one country, two systems and also guarantees, from a British perspective, an independent judicial system. So the UK insisting it takes this very seriously indeed, but Jeremy Hunt not prepared to say at this point what the serious consequences he has been talking about might actually be if this row continues to escalate further. But certainly it is a disagreement which is harming relations between China and the UK. And he would say that the UK is simply sticking here to principles in that joint declaration of 1984, and Jeremy Hunt making the point that if an international agreement isn't lived up to by both sides, then it harms both sides, not just the Chinese here. He would say that it would do damage to the UK's standing internationally as well. Certainly, though, the UK has been making strides in recent years to try and improve ties with Beijing, and particularly to boost business ties between the UK and China, and that will continue to be very important to Britain as it leaves the European Union. So it's a difficult balance that Jeremy Hunt is having to try and strike here.